Welcome everyone. Today I am not going to teach you grammar rules. I am not going to give you a long list of vocabulary words. I am not going to promise that you will become fluent overnight. Today I want to tell you a real story. The story of how I spoke fluent English in 1 month. Not because I was talented. Not because I studied abroad. Not because I had expensive courses. But because I changed the way I practiced. I changed the way I thought. And most importantly, I changed the way I saw myself. If you have ever felt nervous while speaking English, if you have ever translated in your head, if you have ever felt that your mind becomes blank when someone asks you a simple question, then this story is for you. 1 month ago, my English was not terrible, but it was not fluent. I understood many words. I knew grammar rules. I could pass exams. But when it came to speaking, everything changed. When someone spoke to me in English, my heart started beating faster. I would understand the question, but I could not answer quickly. Inside my head, I was translating every sentence from my mother tongue to English. By the time I prepared my answer, the conversation had already moved on. I felt slow. I felt embarrassed. I felt small. And the worst part was that I knew I had been learning English for years. So why was I still afraid to speak? One evening, something simple happened. Someone asked me, "Can you explain your goals in English?" It was not a difficult question. I knew the answer in my mind. But when I opened my mouth, my sentences were broken. I paused too much. I repeated words. I could see the other person waiting patiently, and that waiting made me even more nervous. That night, I could not sleep peacefully. Not because someone laughed at me. Nobody laughed. But I felt disappointed in myself. I realized that I had been learning English, but I had not been training to speak English. There is a big difference. The next morning, I made a serious decision. For the next 30 days, English would not be a subject. It would be part of my daily life. I stopped saying, "I will practice when I feel motivated." I stopped blaming my environment. I stopped saying, "Nobody around me speaks English." I told myself something very simple and very powerful. If I am not fluent, it is my responsibility. That sentence changed my mindset. Because when you take responsibility, you stop waiting. You start building. In the first week, I focused only on one thing, thinking in English. I realized that my biggest problem was translation. Every time I wanted to speak, my brain followed this slow process. Think in mother tongue. Translate to English. Check grammar. Then speak. That process was killing my confidence. So I created a rule for myself. No translation. Even if my English was simple. Even if my grammar was not perfect. I would think directly in English. At first, it felt uncomfortable. My brain resisted. It felt slow and strange. But I did not stop. I started with small thoughts. I am brushing my teeth. The weather is hot today. I feel a little tired. Simple sentences. Throughout the day, I described my actions in English inside my head. It felt silly in the beginning. But slowly, my brain started adjusting. By the end of the first week, I noticed something small but powerful. Sometimes, I was thinking in English automatically, without forcing. That gave me hope. In the second week, I built a simple routine. I understood that motivation comes and goes, but routine stays. So instead of practicing randomly, I fixed 1 hour every day for English. 20 minutes reading, 20 minutes listening, 20 minutes speaking. Nothing complicated, nothing extreme, just consistent. When I read, I did not choose difficult books. I chose simple articles and short stories. I wanted to become familiar with sentence patterns. I noticed that when I read daily, my brain started recognizing how English sentences flow. When I listened, I did not just play videos in the background. I listened carefully. I paused. I repeated sentences. I tried to summarize what I heard. It was difficult at first. My brain felt tired. But that tiredness meant growth. The most uncomfortable part was speaking alone. Every day, I spoke for 20 minutes without stopping. Sometimes in front of a mirror. Sometimes recording my voice. At first, I could only speak for 2 or 3 minutes before my mind went blank. But instead of stopping, I continued speaking anything that came to my mind. Even simple ideas. Even repeated ideas. Because I understood something important. Fluency is not built by silence. It is built by continuous effort. After a few days, I could speak longer without freezing. My sentences were still not perfect. But they were smoother. In the third week, I focused on training my mouth. I realized that speaking is a physical skill. My brain might know the sentence, but my mouth was not used to speaking English for a long time. So I started reading out loud every day. Slowly and clearly. I paid attention to pronunciation and rhythm. At first, I made many mistakes. I stumbled over words. I felt awkward hearing my own voice. But I continued. I also practiced shadowing. I listened to short audio clips and repeated them immediately, trying to match the speed and tone. It was hard. Sometimes I felt frustrated because I could not keep up. But after several days, I noticed my speaking speed improving. My tongue felt lighter. My sentences flowed more naturally. It was not magic. It was muscle training. In the final week, something changed inside me. I stopped trying to speak perfectly. I started trying to speak freely. Every day, I spoke 3 times, morning, afternoon, and night. In the morning, I talked about my plans. In the afternoon, I described what I was doing. At night, I reflected on my day. I did not memorize scripts. I did not prepare speeches. I spoke from my real thoughts and real feelings. And one night, while speaking about my future goals, I realized something surprising. I was not translating. I was not searching for every word. I was just speaking. My sentences were coming naturally. I paused less. I felt calm. That was the moment I understood that fluency is not a loud achievement. It is a quiet shift. One day, your brain stops fighting and starts flowing. After 1 month, my English was not perfect. I still made mistakes. I still forgot some words. But I was no longer afraid. I could express my ideas without freezing. I could continue speaking even if my grammar was not ideal. And that confidence changed everything. Because fluency is not about sounding like a native speaker. Fluency is about speaking without panic. It is about expressing yourself clearly and calmly. It is about flow. If you ask me what really helped me speak fluent English in 1 month, I will tell you this. Week 1, train your brain to think in English. Week 2, build a simple daily routine. Week 3, train your mouth with out loud practice. Week 4, focus on flow, not perfection. But more than these steps, the real secret was commitment. I did not wait to feel ready. I did not wait for perfect conditions. I simply showed up every day. 1 month ago, I was scared to speak. Today, I speak with confidence. Not because I am special. Not because I am smarter than others. But because I decided to stop wishing and start practicing. If you want to become fluent, do not ask if it is possible. Ask if you are willing to stay consistent for 30 days. Because real improvement is quiet. It happens slowly. And then one day, you realize you are speaking full sentences without fear. And you smile. Because you built it yourself. So the question is simple. Will you stay the same, or will you commit to 1 month that can change the way you speak forever? But let me tell you something important. The biggest change was not in my English. The biggest change was in my identity. Before those 30 days, I used to say, I am trying to improve my English. That sentence sounds harmless, but it hides doubt. It hides hesitation. It hides fear. During that month, I stopped saying that. I started saying, I speak English every day. Even when my sentences were not perfect. Even when I made mistakes. I stopped labeling myself as a learner who struggles. I started seeing myself as a speaker who is improving. That small identity shift changed the way I showed up daily. Because when you see yourself differently, you behave differently. There were still difficult days. I don't want to make this sound easy. Some mornings I woke up tired and my mind felt slow. Some evenings I did not feel like speaking. Some days I listened to my recording and thought, why does my accent still sound like this? In those moments, the old doubt tried to return. The voice in my head said, maybe 1 month is not enough. Maybe you are not meant to be fluent. But instead of believing that voice, I asked myself a different question. Did I practice today? If the answer was yes, I allowed myself to feel proud. Not because I was perfect, but because I was consistent. Around day 20, I noticed something very subtle. When I watched English videos, I understood more without subtitles. When someone spoke quickly, I did not panic immediately. My brain did not scream too fast. It simply tried to follow. That calmness was new. Earlier, speed used to scare me. Now, speed felt like a challenge, not a threat. That shift from fear to challenge is powerful. It means you are growing. I also started noticing changes in small real-life conversations. When someone asked me a question in English, I did not look away. I did not avoid eye contact. I answered, maybe not perfectly, maybe with small pauses. But I answered. And after answering, I did not replay the conversation in my head with shame. I simply moved on. That freedom felt bigger than fluency. It felt like confidence returning to me. One day, I had a longer conversation in English than usual. It was not planned. It just happened naturally. We spoke for almost 15 minutes. There were moments where I searched for words, but I did not freeze. I used simpler words. I explained my ideas differently. I kept going. After the conversation ended, I walked away and realized something. I had just spoken for 15 minutes without translating, without panic, without giving up. That was a moment I truly understood that the 30 days were working. But here is something honest. Fluency did not arrive like a celebration. There were no fireworks. No dramatic moment where I suddenly sounded like a native speaker. It was quiet. Very quiet. It felt like this. One day speaking felt difficult, and a few days later speaking felt normal. That is how growth works. It is invisible while it is happening. You only notice it when you look back. By the end of the month, I looked at myself differently. I was not perfect. I still had an accent. I still made grammar mistakes sometimes. But I was no longer controlled by fear. And that is what fluency truly gave me. It gave me control over my mind. Earlier, when I spoke, fear controlled me. Now, I controlled my voice. I accepted that mistakes are part of communication. I stopped trying to impress people. I started trying to express myself. I also learned something deeper during this month. Language learning is not only about language. It is about discipline. It is about patience. It is about facing discomfort every single day. When you force yourself to think in English, when you speak even though you feel embarrassed, when you continue practicing on days you feel tired, you are not just building fluency. You are building character. You are proving to yourself that you can stay committed even when it is hard. There were moments when progress felt slow. But I remembered something important. Slow progress is still progress. Many people quit because they expect dramatic improvement in a few days. When that does not happen, they feel disappointed. But real fluency is built through repetition. Small actions repeated daily. Thinking in English daily. Speaking daily. Listening daily. Reading daily. Not perfectly. Just consistently. If you ask me what was the hardest part of the 30 days, I will not say pronunciation. I will not say vocabulary. The hardest part was facing myself. facing my fear of sounding stupid, facing my impatience, facing my habit of quitting when things feel uncomfortable. Every time I spoke and made a mistake, I had two choices: stop and feel embarrassed, or continue and grow stronger. I chose to continue. Again and again. And that choice built confidence more than any grammar rule ever could. At the end of the 30 days, I did something simple. I recorded myself speaking for 20 minutes about my journey. Then I listened carefully. I compared it with an old recording from before I started. The difference shocked me. My sentences were longer. My pauses were shorter. My voice sounded calmer. I was not rushing. I was not struggling for every word. I sounded natural. Not perfect, but natural. And that word meant everything to me. Fluency, I realized, is not about using big words. It is not about speaking fast all the time. It is about speaking smoothly. It is about staying calm when you forget a word. It is about continuing your sentence even when it is not grammatically perfect. It is about flow. And flow comes from practice without fear. Now when someone asks me, how did you become fluent in 1 month? I do not say, it was easy. I do not say, just believe in yourself. I tell them the truth. I trained my brain to think in English. I built a simple daily routine. I trained my mouth by speaking out loud. I stopped chasing perfection and focused on flow. And I showed up every single day for 30 days. That is it. No secret shortcut. No magic trick. Just commitment. And let me tell you something from my heart. The most beautiful moment was not when someone complimented my English. The most beautiful moment was when I realized I was no longer afraid to speak. That freedom is powerful. Because once you remove fear from one area of your life, you start questioning fear in other areas too. You start asking, if I can improve my English in 1 month, what else can I improve? This journey was never only about English. It was about proving to myself that change is possible. That growth is possible. That I am not stuck. And if I can do it, you can too. Not because I am special. Not because I have some hidden talent. But because I decided to stay consistent even when it felt boring, even when it felt uncomfortable, even when it felt slow. So if you are watching this and thinking, can I really speak fluent English in 1 month? Let me answer honestly. You may not become perfect in 30 days. But you can become confident. You can become faster. You can become calmer. You can remove the fear that is holding you back. And once fear is gone, fluency becomes possible. Do not wait for the perfect time. Do not wait for someone to practice with. Start alone if you have to. Speak alone. Think alone. Train alone. Because fluency begins in private. It begins in those quiet moments when nobody is watching and you decide not to quit. 30 days changed my English. But more than that, 30 days changed my belief about myself. I stopped seeing myself as someone who struggles with English. I started seeing myself as someone who speaks English confidently. That belief changed my behavior. And my behavior changed my results. Now the choice is yours. You can continue saying, I will improve someday. Or you can decide that the next 30 days will be different. You can accept discomfort. You can commit to daily practice. You can train your brain, your mouth, and your mindset. And 1 month from now, you might look back and realize that you are not the same person. Fluency is not a gift. It is built. Confidence is not given. It is earned. And growth is not dramatic. It is quiet and steady. So start today. Speak even if your voice shakes. Think even if your sentences are simple. Continue even if progress feels slow. Because one day, without warning, you will speak a full paragraph without translating, without freezing, without fear. And in that moment, you will smile. Not because you became perfect, but because you became stronger. And that is what truly matters. And that was the moment everything truly changed for me. After 1 month of consistent effort, daily practice, small embarrassments, and small victories, I realized that fluency was never about speaking perfect English. It was about speaking without fear. I stopped translating in my head. I stopped worrying about grammar mistakes in every sentence. I focused on expressing my thoughts clearly, even if the sentences were simple. Every day I read aloud, listened carefully, shadowed native speakers, and forced myself to think in English while walking, eating, and even before sleeping. Slowly, English stopped feeling like a subject and started feeling like a part of my life. The biggest lesson I learned is this: confidence grows from action, not from waiting. You don't become fluent by watching videos only. You become fluent by speaking, by making mistakes, and by correcting them. 1 month was not magic. It was discipline. It was consistency. And if I can do it, you can do it too. Start today. Speak today. Don't wait for perfect. Your fluency journey begins the moment you open your mouth and try. If you enjoyed this story and want to improve your English and your life, make sure to subscribe to the channel and join this learning journey with us. And watch the next story on your screen to continue improving your English.